Welcome to the Agronomy and Farm Management Podcast. I'm Bruce.
And I'm Josh, and we're your farm management hosts. Let's get started.
Well, Josh, happy summertime, and sometimes summertime and maybe throughout the year, county extension offices get questions, and some of those questions relate to ag law. Down your neck of the woods in Jackson County, what type of ag law related questions have you been receiving at the extension office?
Yeah, Bruce, a lot of my ag law questions typically come in that winter and that springtime when everybody's looking at this next year's crop, what they want to plant, if they want to rent some land. We have a lot of pasture that's rented down here in Jackson County. So we get a lot of questions about those field crops, renting that land, but we also get a lot of that pasture rentage land. What about you, Bruce? What do you see up in northwestern Ohio?
Yeah, we see a lot of the same. We really want to encourage those lease agreements to go from maybe a verbal agreement to more of a document, a legal document that really can be fair to both parties. It doesn't have to be a scary document or a scary agreement that they would both sign off on. We also get questions on fence law. Sometimes of the year we get trespassing questions about I'm a landowner and what are my rights to deter or to post trespassing questions. Also get food related law questions, new start businesses, people are going to the farmers market, have questions about the laws pertaining to providing food to customers that are consuming that for them and their family. And occasionally we get questions about farm machinery on the road. And in the finance area, we get questions, how do I set up like an installment contract when I want to maybe purchase an item, maybe farmland from a family member or a friend and go through the installment contract process. And Josh, with all those questions that come in, we are so fortunate here at Ohio State to be the home of the OSU Agricultural and Resource Law Program. This program has been serving Ohioans for really decades on issues in farm business law, really from A to Z, literally agricultural tourism to zoning, if I describe that A to Z. And there's so many dozens of subject matter in between that A to Z. We're fortunate here in Ohio to have our director of the Ag Law Program, Peggy Law, and her fellow attorneys, Robert Moore and Jeff Lewis, who we've had as guests on our podcast in episodes past. Now, we have a new colleague that has joined the Ag Law Program here at Ohio State, and that is our guest today, Ellen Essman, attorney and senior research associate with the Ohio State University's Agriculture and Resource Law Program. Welcome today, Ellen.
Thank you, Bruce. Glad to be here.
It is great to have you. Great to have you on board and not necessarily brand new to OSU Extension and the Ag Law Program, but nice welcome back, let's say. And take a little bit of a time, if you would, tell us a little bit about your background and your pathway to OSU.
So I originally from a farm in southwestern Pickaway County, and I went to college at Ohio State and studied political science, but I was kind of feeling a pull back to agriculture. I had always been involved in FFA and 4-H growing up, so I did get my minor in the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. And then when I was thinking about what to do next, I always kind of had law school in the back of my mind. And I actually worked for Peggy Hall in college, and she kind of encouraged me to look into Drake University Law School. And they have they're one of the only law schools that really have a focus on agricultural law. So I did end up attending Drake. It's in Des Moines, Iowa. So from starting out in political science, kind of wondering what I wanted to do, I got back into agriculture and kind of my roots. And that's how I kind of started down this ag law path. And like you said, I worked for Extension from 2016 to 2020, and I was in the ag law program, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad to be back. From 2020 to early this year, I was in government affairs in the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. We were working with elected officials on our priorities and that kind of thing. And I think doing that really helps me when I'm coming back to the Ag Law program, just those conversations with elected officials and what they're worried about. It's good to have that background as you're helping people with agricultural law.
So, Ellen, there's many different disciplines in the area of law. How does ag law appeal to you as an attorney?
I always wanted to go back to that background in ag. And this is kind of a good way to use my skill set, writing and research to do that. And overall, I mean, ag law is huge. I mean, there's so many different, like you said in the beginning of this episode, there's so many different topics it touches. So you never really get bored. I mean, you might have a land use question or more of a business question. So there's just no end to kind of what you can dig into.
With all those opportunities in ag law, what are you most excited about while joining the OSU Ag and Resource Law program?
I guess I am excited to kind of dig into issues again, like I had been when I was with the program before. I did a lot of research on different states and what they were doing for agricultural water runoff. So it's interesting to compare that kind of thing. I'm also really excited that since I left, they have started the Ohio Farm Resolution Services program and the Ag Law program. And it's a certified agricultural mediation program. And our hope is to help find solutions to issues and conflicts that impact Ohio's farms and farm families. So I'm really excited to start doing that work and seeing what we can resolve throughout Ohio.
I like the words that you chose there, the resolution and solutions. And sometimes agriculture can be a little messy. And sometimes the people that are involved in agriculture just need a little help in navigating some of those challenges, whether it's generational or just within the family operation. Tell us a little bit more about that resolution services and what is the role of an attorney during that resolution service program?
First of all, I think it's to listen and hear both sides of what's going on. But our staff, the attorneys in our program, would be acting as mediators, not trying to find for one side or another, but bringing everything to the table and listening and coming to a solution that works for both sides. We are hoping to address a wide range of farm related issues. So people could bring to us issues with estate or transition planning, farm business operations and management needs, lease negotiations and enforcement, land use and neighbor disputes and that kind of thing. So I think our first goal is to really listen and help come to if it's not the perfect solution, a solution that works for both sides.
Recently in June, you wrote an article for the Farm Office blog regarding Ohio's House Bill 15 titled New Ohio Law Incentives Energy Generation on Former Brownfields Coal Mines. Can you give us a summary of that bill?
That bill is huge, and overall, I think the main headline from that was that it repealed parts of House Bill 6, which was passed in 2019 and was very controversial because it gave subsidies to coal plants. So it revokes those parts of House Bill 6, but kind of honing in more on what it means for agriculture and farmers in rural areas. What I focused on in that post was this bill, House Bill 15, allows local entities like county commissioners to request that former brownfields and coal mines be designated as priority investment areas. And once they are designated as such, they have to have approval by the state. But once they're designated, they're exempt from property taxation for 5 years, and there are accelerated reviews for energy projects being built on that land. And so, what it really, both environmental and farm groups in Ohio have really highlighted that this is good because it remediates land that already has issues on it, pollution, that kind of thing. But it also saves farmland from being used for energy production, like a lot of the solar and wind we've been hearing about. If they do it in this priority investment area, there's not as much pressure on farmland to be used for solar projects or other energy projects in that way. So that's the hope with this, is that in rural areas that these sites can be used instead of farmland or habitats. That was really my main focus in writing that.
So the people make our OSU Ag Law program great, and glad to have you back and on board with the program. And you're in good company, as you know, with Peggy, Robert, and Jeff all having the expertise in Ag Law. What kind of expertise or collaboration do you see yourself bringing to that team to serve Ohio farmers and landowners?
Before I did a lot of natural resources, environmental type things. I mentioned my study of water runoff laws in the different states. So I think I can bring a focus on that. But also, since coming back from working in government affairs, I think, I really have an idea of a better idea of how things work and how policy gets passed, what lawmakers, county commissioners are really thinking about. So I think I can bring that perspective to the group and kind of help interpret that for our clientele, what's going on at the state house, what the behind the scenes might look like, and that kind of thing.
So, Ellen, here in Extension, our main job is to make a difference within our community. How does an attorney know when they've made a difference within their client or an attendee at one of those extension programs? And what does that mean to you?
I think anytime we can teach clients and attendees and farmers something new about the law that affects them, they can take back to their farm and use in a real way, I think that makes a difference because I think education on the law is very important, and especially with all the laws touching agriculture and land use, helping them to understand that feels really good.
So, Ellen, what's the best way for people to reach out and connect with resources that you have maybe put together or find solutions to those problems that they may be dealing with in their farm business or as a landowner?
Well, my email is always a good place to start, and that's essman.23@osu.edu. And also the farm office website, which is farmoffice.osu.edu. We have in our ag and resource law library and our blog, we cover, probably any topic that you're thinking about. And if we don't, then we can and we can get more information to you. But I think that's a really great place to start is the farm office website.
Ellen, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Not really. I'm excited to be part of the program and to be back. And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening today.
For more information about farm management tips, be sure to check out the Farm Office at farmoffice.osu.edu.